Hi, this is Carl. Welcome back to the Parent Faith video series. This series is in conjunction with my book, A Parent Faith, What Fatherhood Taught Me About the Father's Heart. This episode is number 4, called The Love of God. I remember when our firstborn child came, JD. His real name is Jordan, but we call him JD. It was a long labor. It was like 9 in the morning or 7 in the morning till 9 at night. Laura could probably tell you exactly, but we went home the next day and brought him home the next day. We had struggles with the car seat and getting all that to get together. But I remember when we brought him home and we just placed him in the middle of the living room in the apartment. And we kind of looked at each other like, okay, what do we do now? And so that was our experience. That's what I remember the most about when he was first born. When our second child was born, Abby, there was a controversy over whether she or he. We didn't find out ahead of time. And the doctor said, I'm always wrong when I guess these things. And I did guess the baby, the arrival time and the sex of the baby. And so the doctor just covered up the baby and said I was right. Well, we didn't know if he meant I was right that I was wrong or I was right that I was right. And so Laura kind of came unglued and he finally told us that it was a girl. But even this, I would say of that daughter, no one has ever made me so angry yet invoked my love like my second child, my first daughter has. And even though she challenged me, I still loved her and I respected her for her personality. My youngest, Lily, had the most beautiful hair, and it was probably halfway down her back when she cut it off in the middle of the night one night. She's always took the road less traveled. I was really proud when she gave a graduation speech that wasn't the normal thing that everybody does, and she stood up for herself. And I have high respect for her for many reasons, but none so much as when recently she's held the hand of her premature baby and gone through all of those challenges with those developmental milestones and came through it well. It's apparent that I love my children. Even before they were born, it was probably close to unconditional love. There were times when they disappointed me, didn't live up to my expectations. There were times when I doubted that they loved me. But even when they were rebellious, even when they pulled away from me, it just made me want to draw closer, as I've said before. As a pastor, I saw all kinds of different parents. I saw drug-addicted and alcoholic parents. I saw religious zealots and atheists even. But I saw people I admired and people that were really, really hard to understand. But the common denominator among all of those parents is they always loved their children. Most of them made mistakes, and some of them even caused their children to struggle unnecessarily. But still, nothing they loved more than their children. And so that's my assumption about God, is that God, like a parent, is even better than me. His love for his children must be better than my love for my children. And I consider my love for my children pretty strong. God is often portrayed as a father, but if he's a parent, then he must be a better parent than me. My children used to say, yeah, Dad, I know you love me, but you have to love me because you're my father. And we assume that about God sometimes. We say God must be doing something that he doesn't want to do. If we assume we are originally bad and he can hardly stand to look at us, then it's almost like something has to compel God to love us. That's what we think. That's how we kind of operate sometimes. Growing up, I had an assumption. My mother tells a story of where I thought my parents favored one of the children over the other, and one of them favored one, and one favored the other, and me and Kenneth weren't either one of those. So, but we imagine that things operate like that with God. We imagine our denomination, our nation of origin, is more loved than others. That others then we kind of subhumanize. They're less than us. But in this country, in the United States, during the Civil War, it was literally possible for a mother to have children on two sides of the war. The God is on our side mentality would have played out in that mother, just like that mother having to choose one child over the other, something that most mothers couldn't do. Would God's love be stronger for the North or the South? And for probably wherever you're from, you want to chime in and say, well, our side, of course. Belief systems, political ideas, all of those things are at least partially wrong. Does God choose sides? If not a nation, then maybe I'll do something noble, and that'll put me on God's side, and He'll love me more. That's not the way it works with children. We love them all, and we generally try to love them the same and treat them the same and so on, but God's even better than us. God loves us because of who he is, not anything we do. He's only obligated by His nature. And we understand this because of the experience we have as parents, especially when we see our children begin to raise their children. When we become grandparents, we see this love. And the love of the Father, Son, and the Spirit flow to each other and to us. Children have different responses to love. Sometimes they accept it, sometimes they ignore it, sometimes they resist my love. As a parent, my best move, no matter what they did, was to keep loving them, no matter what their response was to that love. Our response cannot change the nature of God's affection. It only changes our experience. A guy named Ted Decker said this. He said, what you believe about yourself never defines you. Only what your Father believes about you truly defines you. Your beliefs and perceptions, however, do define the experience that you have in the world. Our actions change the way it feels, but it doesn't change the true nature of that love that the Father has for us. My experience as a young adult, I imagined at one time, I was in a church. It was just a weird time in my life, but I came to the point where I imagined that a love that was truly unconditional. And my reference point was, God loves me, period. That was a big turning point in my life and probably what helped me move along later in this journey. With my children, their realization of my love for them was gradual. It was not in grand moments. Sometimes it was a look they gave me. Sometimes I could feel it when they hugged me. But God's love is constant. And I pray that as just like my children came to understand my love for them, that we'll understand God's love for us better.